When we talk about interview preparation, we often talk a lot about the content of your answers, how to project confidence, strategies to use on interview day, but we rarely talk about the kinds of physical preparations that you can and should do as you work towards that day. So today I want to give you 8 things that you can do to help you manage your stress so that you can focus on the task at hand and come off as calm, cool, collected in your interview. First, hi, my name is Dr. Sarah Klebe and I'm an admissions expert at BeMo. So tip number 1 has to do with your travel plans. You need to make sure that you arrive to the city in which your interview is taking place the night before your interview. Do not show up on the day of. Get off the plane and go straight to the interview. Always show up the night before. There are any number of things that can go wrong as you're traveling. If you're flying, obviously there are all kinds of potential delays. If you're driving, inclement weather, a big accident on the highway, any number of unexpected things can happen that can delay you. And if you are late for your interview, if you miss your time slot, you're likely not going to get it back. So it's really important that you get to the destination ahead of time. If you get there at least the day or evening before, you'll save yourself a lot of stress, a lot of uncertainty, and have some time to just dedicate to self-care, to taking care of yourself and doing the things that make you feel good and that help you burn off some stress. As far as the actual day of the interview, you also want to make sure that you get to that site early. If you show up in the city the day before, you'll have some time to visit the interview location ahead of time. That'll help you familiarize yourself with the area. You can find the room where you're going to be interviewing. On big campuses in particular, sometimes there are rooms that are kind of tucked back in behind everything, so you can check that out and know exactly where you need to go. And on the day of, you want to show up about 20 minutes before registration time. That, again, make sure that you're there with a good buffer in terms of time. You don't have to stress or worry. You'll have time to use the washroom, grab a coffee, a tea, or water, whatever it is that you want. Maybe put a little something in your belly if you haven't already. As far as actually getting from where you're staying to the interview, whether you're staying with a hotel or friends or something like that, we strongly recommend taking a cab or an Uber or a Lyft or whatever you're comfortable with, because that is going to, again, just save you a lot of stress, especially if you're not familiar with the city where you're visiting. There are, all kinds of quirks to each city and their traffic, their busy times, and all of that. If you take a cab, an Uber, a Lyft, or something like that, you can sit back, put in your, earbuds, listen to some music, concentrate, again, just on you, de-stressing, being confident, and not having to worry about getting there, finding parking, or dealing with transit, or anything like that. There's obviously some cost to taking those kinds of transportation, but they are worth it in terms of the stress that it saves you. Another note in terms of your travel plans, it's not uncommon for parents to sometimes want to come with their children to the interview. Not to the interview literally. Well, sometimes they do, but at least traveling to the city with their child. If your parents insist on coming with you, you do need to lay down some ground rules. The time ahead of your interview is all about you. So establishing some parameters, it's really important. So they can't be in your head the entire trip, hammering home how important it is that you get into medical school or law school or whatever it is that you're interviewing for, telling you tales of, disastrous interviews that their friends' kids went through, or projecting just all their fears and uncertainty onto you. You have enough stress to deal with right now. You don't need to deal with that as well. It's not going to help you. interview. So if they are going to travel with you, they should not show up to the actual interview with you. They shouldn't wait around in the lobby of the building where you're interviewing. They shouldn't question strangers looking for a possible leg up. Yes, these are all things that have happened in the past. They should stay at the hotel or maybe go find a nice museum, have a nice lunch together or something like that. It would also, if you're comfortable, it would be best to have a hotel room to yourself. Maybe see if you can have 2 rooms next door to each other with your parents in the next room. That way you can make your room into a little retreat for yourself so that you can focus on your own needs rather than trying to please or tend to others. And then one last thing in terms of those travel plans, if you're staying with friends, that's awesome. It's a great way to save on cost, see people that you maybe don't get to see all the time. But this isn't the night to show how chill you are by staying up and partying all night with them. This is a night to get to business and to be, calm, collected, do some breathing and things like that. Your friends should understand this. If you want to go and hang out and party with them, totally fine. Just save it until after the interview. You're going to want to blow off some of that stress anyway. So, number 2, sleep. You need to sleep. Don't stay up all night partying. Don't stay up all night studying. Don't stay up all night, period. Ensure that you arrive and settle in time to get at least 7 hours of decent sleep. Take earplugs with you just in case. You never know when you're going to be next door to a loud snorer or construction or something else. Who knows, right? If you take sleep medication for insomnia, tonight's not the night to be a hero and go without it or anything like that. No, go ahead, take your medication. Just the week before the interview, start going to bed a little bit earlier, maybe around 10 p.m., so that all of the drowsiness is gone by 8 o'clock the next morning and you wake up refreshed, ready to go and get rolling. Next, number 3, reviewing. I know it probably feels like you should be reviewing, practicing right up until the minute before you walk into the door at the interview. That is not the case. Stop reviewing, stop practicing questions and answers by noon, 2 days before the interview. Stop practicing. Stop changing your answers. Stop reading the health news. At that point, you are done. You're not going to cram any more into your head. And you actually need to give your brain some time to passively process all this information. Our brains are still working on things in the background when we're not actively thinking of them. That's passive processing. We've all experienced this where, maybe a word or a name was on the tip of your tongue and you just couldn't think of it. And then, you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and go, oh, Janet, that was her name. Well, your brain was still working on it in the background in the meantime, and that was the result of your passive processing. So give yourself time to passively process your questions and answers by stopping reviewing noon, 2 days before the interview. At this point, the goal is to settle in, be content with your efforts, get comfortable so that you can project confidence on the day of. So number 4, this is a really interesting idea and one that works really well. It can take a little getting used to, but it's worth going through. And that is some light visualization and meditation, especially the night before. The most anxious moment that you are going to have in the entire interview, whether it's an MMI, a panel, a traditional, whatever the interview type, and that's going to be when you first open your mouth to answer the first question. If you can get through that, the rest is easy. Even if you feel totally ready, totally calm when you're sitting in the waiting room, getting ready to go in, even the most centered of us, even the most experienced of us will experience something sort of like this. You'll read the prompt or hear the question, immediately your heart rate goes up, you get a wash of nervous feeling, maybe you flush a little bit, you start talking a little too fast and feeling a little out of breath. That is completely normal. If you know that it's going to happen, that makes it easier to get through it. So anticipate this. Be ready for that nervousness, that little bit of anxiety, or maybe that lot of bit of anxiety, depending on who you are and your level of nervousness in such situations. But by acknowledging it, by giving it space, by understanding that it is totally normal to be nervous, you can own that nervousness. And that's a good way to really work through it, by telling yourself, you're not losing control, you're not freaking out. This is just a normal response, and you can get past it. Now, one way to get past it is to do some visualization and meditation. So the night before the interview, sit in a comfortable position with your legs well supported and do a guided visualization. And I'm going to give you an example one. You can use this one or look up some others, but this is particularly useful for something like the multiple mini interview. So as you're sitting in this comfortable position, you're going to close your eyes and you're going to do the following, or you're going to sort of imagine the following. Imagine yourself reading a card with a question on a door. Imagine yourself reading that question and thinking about what you might say. Before deciding to touch the doorknob and enter the room, take one long, slow breath in through your nose. Gently exhale that breath through your mouth. During your breath, don't think about the question. Just focus entirely on the movement of air from outside your body, through your airways, and out again. Imagine yourself opening that door, walking into the room, smiling, handing your sticker or your name tag to the examiner for their sheet, shaking their hand, introducing yourself by name. Imagine yourself sitting down, getting comfortable. Imagine yourself enjoying the process of sitting down and talking about this interesting question or prompt with the examiner, or imagine yourself turning your attention to the role player in the room, maybe a patient, a neighbor, a teacher, and playing out the intended role play. Imagine yourself having fun doing this. Imagine yourself feeling completely immersed in the topic and the experience. Imagine yourself feeling satisfied. Now, you can repeat this guided visualization a number of times. Generally, I would recommend taking a break in between each sort of cycle through to practice some deep breathing. You would breathe in slowly and deeply through your nose to the count of 6, breathing so deeply that you have to push your belly out to hold all the air, holding that breath for the count of 6, and then exhaling that breath through your mouth also to the count of 6. So in 6 through your nose, hold 6, out 6 through your mouth. Repeat this 5 to 10 times, and then do the visualization again. You can do several cycles of this, and this allows you to sort of live the moment of that first initial step into the room that causes so much anxiety, preparing your brain for it, associating it with pleasant feelings, with calmness, with smiling, with having fun, and all of that will help mitigate some of the anxiety that you feel. All right, next, number 5, physical activity. Now, this doesn't mean that you should push yourself harder than you've ever pushed yourself before, but on the morning of the interview, you should move your body a bit before you go into the interview. If you're really into running or something like that and you're experienced, you can toss in a quick 5K to wake up. If you're not someone who does running or anything like that, you can take a brisk walk. If you're staying at a hotel, maybe they have a pool and you could take a little swim. But this isn't really just about fitness. It's just about becoming alert, getting rid of some excess fidgety energy. If you're someone who has sort of attention issues, then this is particularly important for many of us. If we have a nervous day coming up and we haven't physically moved and expended some of that nervous energy, we end up tapping or shuffling or jittering or shaking our leg, and all of those things are really distracting to those around us, and you don't want that to be what people remember about you. So that'll help you again calm your nerves, feel good about yourself, and be awake and alert by the time you get to the interview. Number 6, feed yourself and feed yourself well. Feed yourself in a healthy sense. Eat something that you know you're going to like, something that's not going to make your stomach upset or anything like that. Protein is ideal, but not like fast food protein. This isn't the time for a sausage McMuffin or something like that. That might make you need to run to the washroom, and you don't want that. Maybe, some cheese, a hard-boiled egg, whole wheat bread, maybe some nice hearty oatmeal with fruit, something that sits well with you and that, will fill you up and make you feel good. If you drink coffee, drink coffee. Today's not the day to abstain. If you don't drink coffee, don't start today. It's not the day to start. It'll just make your bowels upset and give you nervous energy. So stick within, the range of things that make you comfortable. This isn't the time to be adventurous or take new risks. Number 7, be ready to shake off bad situations. If you hit a station in an MMI or you get a question in an interview and you don't answer as well as you would have liked to, that's not necessarily a big deal. One bad station, one bad answer isn't a big deal. It really isn't. First off, let's just say our own nervous energy usually makes it such that it is nowhere near as bad as it feels to us. You probably think that whatever mess up you made was way worse than it actually was. Trust me, I'm very experienced in this. Second, if you do beat yourself up about it, the rest of your answers are going to suffer. You're going to carry that stress and that negativity with you, and it will absolutely show. So you want to start each question with a new breath. Again, like we did in the visualization. Start each question as if it is a brand new day. If you're in a panel interview and the general sort of sense in the room is that you just gave a terrible answer, you know what? Use that to show that you're resilient. Master the next question, knock it out of the park, and that's going to be a huge asset. You're going to show them in real time just how resilient you are, just how effectively you get over those little hurdles that we all face in life. Stay even, stay ready, calm, cool, collected, and you will impress them, even if you're coming off of a less than ideal answer. If you're in an MMI and you feel like you really just blew one of the stations, at this point, close that door. Don't think about it again. Focus on what's ahead of you, not what is behind you. You are probably never going to see that examiner again, ever in your entire life. This score that they're giving you is just one score out of many across all the different stations, so don't carry that weight with you. New breath, new door, new question. You can deal with the stress and anxiety of that after you get done with everything else. And that's part of professionalization, right? We call this compartmentalization. When something negative happens, but you have to go on and continue and perform anyway, you just sort of put it in a mental box, set it aside, and deal with it later. Lastly, number 8, avoid comparisons. So what I mean by this is, it's important that we're self-aware, that we're able to acknowledge, our own limitations and weaknesses. But we also have to be careful not to let such self-awareness spiral into self-deprecation. Self-awareness is absolutely an asset in an interview station. Self-deprecation, on the other hand, is generally not an effective professional tool. It can have some value as a social tool, but not in this kind of setting. You will likely walk out of your interview hearing the halls abuzz with people saying things like, "Yeah, I nailed it," or "I answered this question," and you could tell the guy was so impressed. Or one of our personal favorites, the interviewer said that he wasn't supposed to tell me this, but that I was really good and he would vouch for me. Many of those people, if not all of them, are probably lying. Examiners just don't say those kinds of things. Sometimes people can have a good sense of how their answer landed, but most examiners try to keep a very consistent response to all candidates, even nodding their head and smiling when they hear a kind of terrible answer. So no one really ever knows how they've done at a station, and you're not going to know either. Don't discuss your answers with other people, though, other candidates. Don't try to remember everything that you said. It's not going to help you. It's going to cause you to doubt yourself, and that doubt is going to turn into anxiety that's going to follow you for months until the offers start coming out. And you really don't need to put yourself through that. You can absolutely protect yourself from those kinds of things by simply not engaging in that kind of speculation. So for every interview that you have prepared for earnestly, every authentic answer that you've given, and every demonstration that you offer that you're actually trying to practice medicine because you want to serve humanity, then you've done your job. That's it. That's all. That's what's expected of you. And if you didn't do well this time, well, then next year consider hiring a coach to work on the gaps in your performance and learn from your mistakes. Lots of people have to go through this process a couple of times before they get in. There is clear evidence that appropriate interview coaching does work, but that's not something that you have control over on interview day. Of course, if you still have time to prepare before your interview at this point, you're welcome to check out our medical school interview preparation or MMI prep programs and see how we can help you ace that interview. In the meantime, I hope that you enjoyed this video and that it was helpful. If so, please do go ahead, like it, share it with a friend who might benefit from it. Be sure to follow us on whichever social media platform you're using right now. If you'd like us to help you, click the link that should appear either above or below this video to see our programs and schedule your free initial consultation. We'll set you up with one of our admissions experts to answer any questions you might have and get you started on your preparations. We have programs to suit any of your needs, and we are always happy to work with you to determine which plan is going to support you and your goals most effectively. As ever, thank you so very much for your time. Take good care, and I'll see you next time.